So you've just formed a DNA group and you're wondering, how's it meant to work? Or you're contemplating being in a DNA group and you'd like to know what is going to be involved. Let me explain. DNA groups are going to meet fortnightly alongside life groups, probably for about an hour at a time. And they can meet, to be honest, in almost any setting. So you could, when we're allowed, you could go to a coffee shop and just chat there. You could be two friends going for a run together. You could be online chatting. There's all sorts of settings in which your DNA group could meet. The idea is that you'll pick up where you were last time. So different groups are actually going to be at different stages over time. So for example, let's say you're in a DNA group and two of you are ill in this particular week, so you can't meet. Well, the next time you meet, you don't pick up the next session, you pick up where you would have been. Otherwise, you'll be missing things out. So in time, groups will be at slightly different stages. Now, what we're suggesting is the very first week the DNA group meets, that you ask really one question of each other. What's your life story? Now, obviously, you're not going to tell the whole of your life story, and you're only going to tell it to the extent and the depth that you feel comfortable in those relationships to do so. But the idea being, of course, that it's helpful to understand a bit more about the people that you are with and to be able, therefore, to relate more to one another and develop some trust. After that, the DNA sessions will follow a pattern of both consistency and variety. Consistency in that essentially the questions you're asking of each other are the same each week. And variety because the scriptures will change each week. And after 8 weeks, the theme changes to which those scriptures relate. Of course, there'll be lots of variety as well because the conversations are just going to be different each time you get together. So there are 2 sections to a DNA session. The first is accountability and how are you doing? And effectively what's going to happen is you're going to follow up on last time. Last time you may have said, well, I'm going to, as a result of our conversation today, I'm going to do this. That's my next step of following Jesus. And you're going to follow up on that and say, well, how did you get on with that last time? And last time you said, well, I'm going to mention that to so-and-so. That person's on my heart. I'd like to share something of what God's doing with them. You're going to ask, how did you get on with sharing that with that person? So it's a follow-up from last time, first off. And then you're going to ask as well, how are you doing? What's brought you joy or satisfaction recently? And also, what's been challenging you recently? Section A, 30 minutes, accountability and how are you doing? And then section B, you're going to get the Bible out and say, what is God saying through his word to us? Another 30 minutes. And you're going to read the Bible passage together, which it would have been good, to be honest, to have read it beforehand as well, and then read it together. It'll be a short passage, and use these questions as conversation starters. Things like this. What are the key truths about God, about you, about life, and about Jesus in this passage? It's always good to ask questions of a passage. And then what questions do you have about this passage? So maybe it throws up questions. Maybe you're confused about that. I'm not quite sure why it says that, or why Jesus would have said that, or why does the psalmist say that? Whatever it is, learning to ask lots of questions of the passage. And then again, we're going to get to action and sharing point. So through this passage, what is it that God is saying you should do or change or stop? There's always some action to take. Finishing with this statement, which I hope we'll get used to and in the habit of doing. Therefore, I will such and such. The point of action that I believe God is calling me to take as a result of what I've read in his word. And then also share. Who is it this week that I'm going to share what God is doing in my life with? Who is it? Maybe a colleague at work, maybe a neighbour, maybe a family member, maybe someone in the church with whom it would be great for me to share with them what God is doing in my life as I'm on this journey of being a disciple. And then next session, you're going to pick up where you left off with the action and the share and get used to helping one another with depth and intentionality keep following Jesus more passionately. So to summarise, DNA groups meet fortnightly alongside life groups with a theme that lasts for 8 sessions working through section A and section B in each session. All this information, the scriptures for each session, other video helps and FAQs are on the DNA page of our website, so please go there to find them.